Good afternoon. Of course, this was no real time. You might, if you're like me, you might be laying in your bed and watching this late at night on a YouTube short or something, and see Marvin and I. And this is an attempt. I know that Tony B and a number of people have asked me to talk more about politics and my political acumen on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world, and I just don't like serious. Like, if you want to watch something serious, you would watch that on television. You know, you would watch it on your news, and I don't want to do anything like the news. And that's I think as a child, you always want to grow up having a career in television and in broadcasting and so forth. But what Rainier Avenue Radio has allowed me to do, as you know, and as we have done, is it has allowed me to broadcast. It has allowed me to pick up and hone this craft, thanks to Tony B and of course our producer Daniel Bellis. And we are attempting a program called Juan on Rainier Avenue, because where else would I do this? And who else would I have as my first guest on show 001 than the ubiquitous Marvin Rosette. And we catch Marvin Rosette at a time in his career where he is at one of the most fluid states that I think that we could characterize that. And let me go back a little bit to this afternoon. As I was leaving the house, my wife said, "What are you going to do on the show?" And I just said, "We're just going to talk." She said, "What are you going to talk about?" I said, "I don't know. We're just going to really string some of these political conversations together." So, "You're going to talk the political stuff again?" I go, "Yeah." I said, "Would you rather have me run for city council, or would you rather have me do this?" And she shook her head for a few moments, and she went out the door. She's going to go meet a friend of ours, and who's also Filipino, by the way. And so, yeah, I'm expanding my wife's friend base, which is exciting to see. But nevertheless, we are going to have conversations with various Seattle politicos, and we're really going to stretch this out with a number of different people. And but obviously, if you have seen a couple of our election return shows, you know of my relationship with this young man who is so much fun to talk to and is so energetic, and still, and he's coming up on the ripe old age of 55. I don't even remember 55, Martin.
I barely remember 24.
Ladies and gentlemen, Marvin Rosette. Marvin Rosette, ladies and gentlemen. And Marvin is an amazing ability to talk about a variety of different issues, talk about them effectively, talk about them passionately. And I'm sure this will be one where people will look back at episode 001 and we will shake our heads. And I'm sure when we're in some snazzy new studio and having done this. So, Marvin, welcome and thank you for being here. And
first of all, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, I love having you.
And first of all, we have to acknowledge all the wonderful people. You know, Mr. Tony B for putting all of the concept of Rainier Avenue Radio.
I'm going to be honest. We've been talking about it all. You just met him today. I'm going to be honest with you, and I will speak more for myself. Although I'm sure Daniel Bellis will probably agree. Tony's not wonderful. Tony's miserable. Tony's constantly a pain in the rear end. Tony B and this is a magnificent program he runs. Don't get us wrong, but he is always up to something. And I'm, you know, I was talking to Daniel on the onset of this, and we had that plan. And then, you know, Tony goes ahead. He's got a vendor fair for the next two, and he's just always his mind never stops. He is the Negro Elon Musk. His mind never. It just ideas are firing out of it.
Let him know. We'll let him know I need some crypto and an electric vehicle while you're at it.
Trust me, Tony's gonna give his share of that first. What's it? I mean, a guy so talented, a guy as sharp and as talented, and you're again looking for work. What's
looking for work again?
why is it so hard for you to find employment that is like stationary employment? You're going to be there for a while.
For all those listening on radio, it's like Juan has known me since this rightful age of 24. So I think a lot of people are wondering, who the heck is Marvin? Why the heck is he on with Juan? And why is he the first guest?
We'll go into that.
Yeah, we'll go into that. But a lot of it is part of it because of the things that I do and what I like to do. The two nairs shall meet. And so if I look happier than most people around my age, that's because
you're single.
That's single too. Not through lack of trying to get attached with someone. God bless the last girlfriend. She's in another, literally another.
How long ago was that last girlfriend?
Oh my God! Let's not go into that. Messes her up too.
But did you want to say, how was that? Was that a couple years ago? Is that recall?
No, that was a few years ago.
Do you know Charles Atkins?
You know
Charles, right? He's on the Everett School Board.
Yeah, he's on the Everett School Board.
He is a lobbyist for the
lobbyist. He would consider student activist, consider himself formerly homeless.
Yes,
then got out there, and so I yes, I.
You know he's engaged, and I said back, I was like, wow. I just he's kind of like you guys. He's in a relationship, so I just felt like, wow, that is if that's your goal, that's your thing. God bless you. If that's what, if you find that right person, I know that there's a couple other in the political sphere who are also happy that they're. Big shout out to a very good friend of mine. I think might be his 6-month anniversary. Alan Charnley. Former chair of the 32nd Legislative District Democrats. His father was Senator Charnley. Don Charnley.
Mm-hmm. And what's great about Alan is that great leader that he was. He's also very young, barely cracked above 30. And I was at his wedding, very privileged to be there amongst really great friends. And he found the woman of his life. And what that was kind of like, but that was a bookend, if you will, for what he got to do near his father's life. He all the service that Senator Charnley has done. His son was taking care of him. Alan was taking care of him in the latter days of his life. And once his dad passed away, it's like, what do I do? And lo and behold, found this wonderful woman, found a wonderful job, and now he's happy. Happy ending.
It's just that. Do you think that the happiness comes first, or do you think you're naturally happy and then this accentuates your life, or do you feel a lot of these guys are like struggling and then the meeting with this partner helps make them happy?
No, just like most relationships, like yes, you can find a relationship. I'm sure there are many apps out there, but a lot of it, you bump into the right person. One gal. as we talk about relationships,
two particles just colliding into
two particles collide. I mean, one person says, "Oh, you'll find your soulmate." One gal was worried, "What's it going to work out?" And she says, "Oh, you'll find your soulmate." I said, "Well, there's no such thing as soulmates. You run into the person who's in front of you." Like, oh, hi, I'm in a relationship now.
It's that simple. You run into the person that's in front of you.
Sometimes literally. I mean, it's cheesy. It's a cheesy love story. That's how it all begins. You literally bump into.
I remember when I was looking back in the early 20s, the early 2000s, right? We're about 2000. I was in my mid 30s. I was reading some sort of documentation about the city the size of Seattle at the time, about roughly 550,000 people. Now it's well over 700,000 people. But and it said, in that size of population, there are 20,000 people that would match the criteria that you're looking for. So there's like 20,000 women, and I couldn't meet any of them at that time.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let's be honest. I'm in the world of Rainier Avenue Radio.
Sure.
There's the compatibility portion.
Sure.
And then there's the people like to say, "Oh, it's chemistry." Baloney. Be honest with yourself. They turn you on, great. If they don't, you're gonna move.
Expound on that a little bit. Expound on that. What are you talking about? The chemistry. You're saying that there's
chemistry and then there's looks. And yes. I'll put this akin to Boeing trying to pick between the YF-23 and the YF-22.
Sure.
Well, and one made by Boeing. Both flew, both cool, both shoot things. Why did they not go with the Boeing plane? Because it looked sucky.
I can see a picture of a Y. What is the Y of what?
YF-22 and the YF-23. So then there was another.
These are jet fighter planes.
These are jet fighter planes.
Tactical aircraft.
No, these are tactical aircraft, fighter planes. And
what do you consider yourself? Are you a fighter plane or a tactical aircraft right now?
Oh heck,
you're more like a commercial. You're like 737.
I'm a 747. I'm an experimental 747 with something hanging off the side. That's Marvin right now. But back to relationships.
Yeah,
I'm a whole different person than when I was like young 23, spritey, graduating from the UW,
sure.
all the other great stuff. And
I remember that. I remember those.
Yeah, and oh my God, what am I thinking? Getting married? Are you kidding me? No way. But again, not through lack of trying. But how does this all go with what we're doing? Well, it goes back to this how we wrap this all in the politics and all over. You got to be. If you are not honest with yourself, oh my God, you're gonna.
Let's say this right.
Your relationship will see right through you.
If you're not truthful with yourself, you're not going to be truthful with the public. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, you're not going to be truthful with anybody.
I lie to myself, but I tell the truth to everybody else.
Well, and it goes, and what we're going to talk about, of course, it goes to politics, because what happens is that, and I forget when this on NPR as well. It's like this gentleman has dated all these other people, and he says, well, the first thing he had to learn about having a real relationship, and was that he had to be himself, because what happens is that he was creating a character,
right,
of himself, of what he thought would be, but that's not him. Even when he went home, he's looking in the mirror, it's like, wait, this isn't me. And the same thing happens in politics. Politics, relationships, you're the wonderful people that know you, whether it be your family or your family, spouse, relationship, whatever, whoever that they know you, they know who you are because you can be yourself.
Right.
That's who you should be like. So now, moving on past the relationship, not avoiding it, but
sure.
But then it comes down to, okay, who is this person really? And they're going to look at you. And so when we look at, when we're going to actually talk about, the elected officials.
No, I know this. I think there's a lot of people that are going to be wishing that we went more and more into this, because a lot of people haven't figured this out yet, which is why that it's so
yeah. And so, by the way,
interesting to find a therapist these days.
Well, I don't have a therapist, but I do have a friend. Her name is Monique Lee. God bless her. She is also known as the Love Broker.
Mm-hmm.
Really? Yep, she is Love Broker.
The Love
Broker, and she is one of the number one love brokers in the city. I want to give a shout out to her. I don't do that enough. She will, and that's because, and she needs more people working for her because of the amount of people that need to be.
We're gonna get her on the show. We're gonna get her on.
She's been on, yeah. Oh, she's been on. She's been on here in Rainier Avenue Radio several times, and as a person who came from that, she's a businesswoman,
mm-hmm.
and her job is pairing up all of these great and wonderful people with each other. And so, but a lot of the ladies that she works with,
mm-hmm.
It's there's something that there's always something that they're looking for, not so much looking for, but there's something that they have to also find. And so she goes into it in better detail, but I learned that from her and about what she was talking about. It's the because you are flawless, in other words.
Not me.
Yeah, everyone is flawless.
Everyone's flawless.
And
I'm sorry, I thought you were making a compliment of me, but I'm flawless.
Yeah, you're flawless.
Am I?
Yes, everyone is flawless. But it's
talking about lying to myself.
I know, right? Everyone is flawless. It's what you bring. And
absolutely.
It's what you bring and what you focus on.
Sure.
So that's kind of the things I learned from her. So now back to politics. How does this all work to what we're going to talk about?
Well, I mean, before we go back to politics, let's go back to the magic of Marvin Rosette.
Oh, okay.
And make sure I'm pronouncing the name correctly. Marvin Rosette.
Okay.
Is it Marvin Rosette?
Okay, it's Rosette. Okay,
Rosette.
It's okay in
Rosette, like a Z. You want me to pronounce it Rosetti?
Yeah, Rosette Rosetti with a Z. Now, if you're from the Philippines, like where I come my parents are born for. Of course, it's all the Philippines were conquered by the Spanish 400 plus years ago, and so where my family comes from, I think it's actually pronounced Rossetti or with a soft S. So if I were walking down the streets of Baguio in the Philippines in Cavite province, if I say, "Oh, I'm a Rossetti," and they'll go, "Oh, you're with this family. Oh, why you need to be with these people?" Versus if I come down, walking down the street here in Rainier Avenue, and they don't know me, I say, "Hey, I'm Marvin Rosette." Everyone thinks I'm an Italian Jew. And then I would get every job I wanted at that point.
There would be some head scratching on that one, but so tell me, so a talented man like yourself, a man who has all this going for you, I mean, irregardless of the young woman who you guys, the relationship didn't work out, which is so hard to ponder with you. How are you going to? What is your process for finding gainful employment?
Well,
and this is a man who's looking for work, ladies and gentlemen. So you see this.
Well, we always start with how did.
DM me and
we have to start at how did I get here?
Yes, how did you?
Well, because I've always had employment either one way or another. So, like for example, I was working at the state senate. I was working for the most beloved, and I miss her a lot, Senator Karen Kaiser. Over at she just retired. What's today? The 13th. She retired officially 3 days ago, and her replacement is now Senator Tina Orwell, who's just got a point. Orwell. So I was working there. Before that, I was working with the Filipino American Educators of Washington. So I was their program manager. So, and that was about a year because they got a wonderful grant through the City of Seattle's Department of Education. And before that, I was in the private sector. So that was fun. So
what with your I mean, you have a wide mix of skills and training.
Mm-hmm.
You were explaining to me earlier before we started this conversation live that you don't have a PhD, you have a doctorate.
I have a doctorate, yes.
Tell people, because and your doctorate is from, of all places, the University of Spoiled Children. Tell us how you were able to get into that program, and tell us what that means, and tell us how you plan on utilizing it to make society better.
Well, honestly, actually, that's one of the first questions I ask you.
Is that right?
Yeah. So, for all those listeners out there, Marvin's resume. So I started at Bellevue College, and then I transferred over from Central Washington for a little bit, and then I finally graduated. And I was actually accepted to the University of Washington, so I went there for 1 quarter. And they said, "Well, you can come back." And I said, "Great." So I actually graduated from the University of Washington. And then I went to Seattle U, graduated from my master's in public administration there. And then the first thing you ask yourself is, why are you using all your degrees? And I said, yes. So that's how I met Mr. good old Juan Cotto, who's sitting like 2 feet in front of me over at the King County Executive's office.
It was a magical time, wasn't it?
Oh, it was. My first day in public office was when the tiles of the kingdom fell down.
Remember?
Yeah. I was, and then in that time, back in that time, the other person working with me was Rod Dembowski, now council member Dembowski.
County Council member Rod Dembowski was also an intern in our office.
Yeah, and my boss was Sharon Tomiko Santos.
State representative.
Now state representative and education chair, Sharon Tomiko Santos. But my own pedigree actually was from the Filipino community. My granddad was the president of the Filipino community. So, things are expected of you. So you got to do good things. But that's how I also, not that leveraged it, but a lot of my time was also spent in the Filipino community in the Central District. So not the Filipino community activism that you would see down in South Seattle. So I was working with at the Filipino youth activities, doing the human services side. And then I was trained by Fred and Dorothy Cordova, Dr. Fred and Dr. Dorothy Cordova.
What was Fred and Dorothy's? Were they PhDs or were they doctorates?
No, they were. So that's a great story. So I was about to graduate from my master's degree, and so they said they were looking for people of honor at Seattle University for the Doctor of Honoris Causa, and Seattle University, just known for their liberal Jesuit training. And so Fred and Dorothy are of Seattle University. So Fred used to work in their press and relations, I believe. And then Dorothy was always related to Seattle University on working with alumni, working with staff all the time. Right. But they were so revered, but never honored in such a way. And so we said, hey, let's honor them with the honorary doctorate. But I said, you can't just get one. Just get people. Well, what about Fred? Well, no, you got to get Fred and Dorothy. They would say that you could not. There would not be a Fred Cordova if not for Dorothy Cordova. And so, with the work of a lot of wonderful people and faculty who agreed, it should be both. So they both. They were both honored, husband and wife, together. Once he got the doctorate, Uncle Fred and I, we kind of joke, we graduated at the same time. And he said, so when do we get to call you doctor, Uncle Fred? He says, no, I don't get to prescribe anything until after graduation. So that was I
can only imagine what the prescription would have been for you.
Then after my time in nonprofits, going back there, so in the time of the private sector, I actually worked in insurance and mortgages. So I'm a financial person.
That's right. Who were you with? You were selling. Selling something, weren't you?
Oh, not something. I'm a corporate America here, guy. So both with Allstate and the Horace Mann companies. So I was selling property and casualty. Worked for this market State Farm, local State Farm agencies. I own my own agency twice. And then after that, right after that experience, about 2017, back to the doctorate stuff, they asked, because I was selling to educators. They said, there was I bumped it. Another friend of mine, he was getting his education. He was in his 70s. He says, you need to look at some of these schools because, you put all these talents together. And so I tripped over the University of Southern California. They have their doctorate degree in organizational change and leadership. So I applied. And that was a multidisciplinary degree. And so, of course, I had to submit. I had to submit everything. So, writing sample. They interviewed me. The biggest thing now, this is the doctoral level. At that level, they want to know, one, can you write? And we're not just talking putting two sentences together. I mean, can you expound something? Can you expound an idea, see it through to the end? And then, what are you going to contribute to the community? So it's more than just, this isn't just a degree here. So for example, I will forever at the doctoral level, you will forever be tagged with your doctorate is from A, B, C, D, E. Mm-hmm. Just like some of the politicians that say, oh, I come from Harvard. Cool. That's nice. A lot of people say, well, I graduated from the University of Washington, and before we used to be a dime a dozen, didn't think too much of it. Now it's like, holy crud, you UW degree means something now. A little bit, a little bit more than a lot more than it used to.
For those who can kind of get into that program, it's a
lot more than it used to be. And two things you get. The number one things I think I like to attribute that to is Dr. Anna Marie Kause. Mm-hmm. Husky number one, and she promoted the university. Not so much just like any other president should.
Have you met her?
once, shook hands. She was a great, wonderful lady, but you can just tell what she's done. The proof is in the pudding and all the things that she's done. And then the other thing is,
I was just going to say, she hasn't changed who she is.
No, she hasn't changed who she is, but
she is the same person that I met many years ago and developed an even better relationship as a president. And obviously, the position becomes so politicized, and there's so much that comes along with it.
Well, it's a political position. People don't think it is. So another great example would be Governor Ambassador Locke, who was President Locke for Bellevue College. Once it changed from community college to he set them up for success. And so it took that level of oomph, if you will, to get Bellevue College. Again, I spent some time there. So they are the third large, I think at the time they still might be, the third most populated college, right behind WSU. UW, of course, being number one. And that's because a lot of people are just going there. They want to go to community college. They want to get their training. They can get a 4-year degree now. I think it would partner with the Eastern and Central, a whole bunch of other things. But education, it's very political.
You love education. You've been a student for a long time.
Oh yeah, I know. Was a professionals.
I mean, to say the very least, and
I studied. I have an education. I can talk education
outside of the relationships and hanging on to a job. You've been in school consistently.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I mean, have you thought about maybe becoming a professor? Have you thought about?
Oh yeah. Well, first of all, when you go to school, the biggest thing that you have to go to is with intent. If you want, so if you have two two wonderful children who are about to enter high school.
One's in high school. One's very much in high school.
One's very much.
The other one is in the 6th grade.
Okay.
However, I feel like she would do better in college right now than the 17-year-old. She's amazing. But everyone feels that way about their daughter.
Yeah.
Hey, we are going to take a brief break on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio, and we will continue on this conversation with Marvin Rosette when we return.
Ladies and gentlemen. Speak up, Seattle. We are Rainier Avenue Radio.world, the station that cares.
This is an important message about coronavirus. With coronavirus still spreading, those who are most likely to get seriously ill must take extra precautions. You are at a higher risk for getting seriously ill if you are over 65 or if you have any serious underlying medical conditions, like heart disease, chronic lung disease, like asthma, diabetes, or if you're undergoing cancer treatment. If you're at a higher risk for getting seriously ill, it's essential you take extra care to protect yourself. Stay home, avoid close contact with others, wash your hands frequently with soap and water for 20 seconds, disinfect frequently touched objects like doorknobs and light switches. The choices you make are critical, and their impact is significant.
Hey y'all, it's Traffic Jam with Kareem.
Thursday at 4 p.m.
Hey, Traffic Jam. Rainier Avenue Radio, download the app so you don't miss out what's popping on Crackers Shining. It's your boy, Cream the Dream, on another beautiful week on here on Traffic Jam in Seattle. I hope you guys doing what you're supposed to do, being you're supposed to be. I got a good show for y'all, a lot to talk about. Kareem the Dream, keep up with everything.
Get your entertainment news with Kareem on the Traffic Jam, Thursday at 4 p.m.
What's going on, world? It's your boy, OG Mambo.
And your guy, D Money. Join us along with Pint Size Patron and ID Yourself.
Here on Fresh Juice at Rainier Avenue Radio.
Every Wednesday hump day from 9 to 11 Pacific.
Get exclusive interviews from your favorite artists, all the hottest music, and updates on what we got going on in the world.
That's every Wednesday, 9 to 11 p.m. on Seattle's Rainier Avenue Radio. If you or a family member are 55 or over and need nursing home level care, but want to keep living where you are, check out Providence Elder Place PACE. This program offers healthcare, housing, transportation, and recreational activities. There are no co-pays, or deductibles, and it's covered through Medicare and Medicaid. Providence Elder Place PACE works to keep you healthy and in your home. Call 206-320-5325 or visit providence.org Elder Place. Providence.org Elder Place.
Rainier Avenue Radio. We are back. Welcome back to your community radio station. Juan Cotto touching bases with you. Juan on Rainier. Rainier Avenue Radio .world, and we are with Marvin Rosette. The Rosetta Stone. I'm just talking about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And he said we're having too much fun. And hopefully this will always be about fun on show number 001. We'll be bringing a variety of different people to talk about politics. We'll be talking about jobs and life, and hopefully we will be in position to make our city better. And it'll be an awful lot of fun doing so. So, Marvin, if you can finish up, tell us what you'd like to do. Tell us what you're looking to do, and tell us what you're gonna do.
Well, what I'm gonna do. Well, one of the things we talked about a little bit was while we were on the break there. We talked about, so what am I doing? Like, yes. What do you do? So
you should write a book. I'm going to write a book with you. What am I doing? By Marvin Rosette.
Well, no, I've got a great book. Great title. Like, I'll put it together with my friend. You'll definitely be part of that one.
I can't wait.
But one of the things that's like, so at this stage of the career game, so you have two choices at not just at 55, heck, 45. You can do you're at this after age 50, and depending on how proficient you are. So you have a choice. And sure. So you can either continue going to the path, go to the management path, and then I know a lot of people who specifically in education. So one person that I know of, like Dr. Yoshida Harding, president of RTC, talked to her a lot. She's mentored me through this on a couple of occasions. It's like, hey, I'd like to work for you. She says, great. But I asked her, how did you get there? And she started in like student services at the university level, and she kept on that stovepipe of progression of responsibility. The same thing can be had of Rosie Raimondo, who's the chancellor of Seattle Colleges. God bless her. She was one of my students. So I'm so proud of her. Yeah, very, 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 very proud of her. And so she was over at WSU, and I was working at FYA at the time. She's far surpassed any every expectation that you could ever ask of an educator. To go from working in like where she started in student services to vice president to being the president, the chancellor of all three colleges. It just shows the responsibility and the work that she's put in, and then and these two great women of color who are the leading higher education in our state. But they're also an example of people who they've also put their work in the nose of the grindstone of wanting to be that educational executive. Anna Maria Casse, another one, but she started at that level. But now for kids like you and me, what do? We're in the political sector. Short of being elected ourselves, which is another route, what do we get to do? Well, I get to do projects. There are a lot of them would be gigs.
Sure.
We would get people get gig jobs all the time. You can do Uber. I do a little bit of culinary on the side because my Chef Marvin persona that everyone knows me.
Marvin.
We'll talk about it. We could always talk about that.
Absolutely.
Later. But that's another show altogether. But another thing too is where I get to do is like hey Marvin, you were good at activism. Help us do field. So now instead of the coming out of the state senate looking for that 9 to 5, I would get called to say, hey, can you help out with this project? Can you help out with that project? Oh, I've got money for this thing. Hey, once you come on board, I could use the help. And these are other activists who have doing good things, who need some projects that are not necessarily related to electoral politics, but still good work in the community. So one project I'm with, and I get to do a plug for it, which is if you go to fixtheharm.org, this is the one where we were trying to get petitions we're trying to get signatures together because the Port of Seattle, of course, is expanding the South Satellite. Mm-hmm. And of course, when you get more airplanes coming in, we're talking about 20 million flights between now and 2030. So it's going to cause more pollution, more health risks, more equity harms. People who are living in affordable housing are, getting all airplane fuel essentially dumped on it, as an example. So that causes more risk, more noise for our community.
Sorry, how does that work? Marvin, when you say something like that, what does that mean? Does that mean when the planes are taking off, the exhaust of the
right.
fuel is on those communities?
Yeah. So
and when they're landing,
So for example, there's so when you're taking off and landing, there's a lot of we've identified a lot of microparticles that are there. If you go to your house, either in Burien, SeaTac, and the closer you are to the airport, this is more profound. It was great in the rain. Take your hand, wipe it across the wall of your house. You'll see all that grit and stuff. That's additionally from airplanes, not just the dirt from your house. And so you're breathing that in. Again, more noise. Now I'm not disparaging the great economic opportunity that our region gets to have, but with that comes the responsibility of knowing for the port of saying when they're making their airport, when they're making the airport master plan for the building of the South Satellite, that to remember we need to acknowledge these harms.
Sure.
And so when the Port of Seattle sees this, it's like port managers, and they're there saying, or there's even commercials right now going on saying, hey, look at the South Side, come early, come do shopping, come look at our dining options, and they are beautiful, but that comes at a cost. And one of those costs, of course, of expansion is the other harms to the community that aren't in Seattle. So again, this is one of the wonderful projects that I get to do. Now, does this translate to a 9-to-5 one day? Maybe, possibly, who knows? But at my stage, in my stage of my career, I get the opportunity to choose. And we were talking about why am I getting all this education? Well, you don't get it just to get it. You get it because you think it's going to serve you. So like my master's was, I would have loved to get a master's in business administration if I had Seattle U had a different qualification, but my master's is in public administration, where I'm going to be working in nonprofits and government. This that teaches me how to manage nonprofit and government organizations. And then this doctorate that I have, not only can I teach, but now I can actually say something with a tad bit of authority to say, to say that, okay, let me look at the data. This is what I think the data means, and here's how I translate it. So, you get these things because they are part of your acumen. That's part of what you want to do. It's one thing getting your undergraduate degree. For here, when you get your graduate degree, it's supposed to motivate you. It's supposed to tighten up your expertise. So is getting a doctorate for everybody? No. But make sure when you do get it, whether or not you're going to get vocational education, or even if you want to be make sure, and to your kids, and I say to this as Dr. Rosette, make sure that when they're going to go to college, make sure they know what they want, or else, because you don't want your child who wants to spend their future on something that, even going to school on something that studying and they don't know why they're there.
How do you characterize yourself politically?
Me?
What are you?
What
Are you moderate? Are you conservative? Or are you what are you?
No, me so on the spectrum.
on the spectrum, what are you?
On the political spectrum, I identify as a moderate. So now everyone, what does that mean?
Well, okay. let me ask you, what is a progressive?
Yeah. Well, for me, if I always go by the academic standard of what, if you ask me what a progressive is,
I like how you said that.
Okay, I am a progressive. In other words, progressivism is what we're using incremental steps in order to improve the human condition. Yeah, so incremental steps in laws and policies, so that way we can move forward with something. So that is, to me, that's true progressivism in the Teddy Roosevelt sense. So, but now when we say because I think who was it in the 1990s? I'm gonna invoke the word Rush Limbaugh. He got it correct, where liberal is a dirty word, and then that progressivism is the new liberal. Well, I like to, and for those who are listening, this sounds a little crazy, but the thing is, he got it right, actually, where the word, liberals or ultra liberals or people of the Marxist view, and where I'm critical of that, and here's why, it's because that the word progressive got co-opted. So in other words, it became an example of ideology, not became an example of ideology, like, this is what we believe in. That's not progressivism. You are not progressing anything. You're just stating a point, and you're trying to get as many people to believe in that point, and then you stick to it without any sort of sense of compromise or solution finding or outcome building. None. So, so if you want true progressivism, be progressive, have an answer, do something that moves the needle forward, and you don't do it by being crazier than the other person. The same thing can be said on to, and these same rules apply if you're on the right. If you're Joe Rogan might be pushing one way. Joe Rogan and what's his name?
Bill Mayer.
Steve Bannon. Very bombastic, ideological, and pushing the right. And you have a Shama Sawant on the left.
Okay, well, here in the city of Seattle, we have a Seattle City Council member until January 5th. Yes. But until January 5th, right. and you're right. I mean, I guess members, although this most recent person, and I like to use her initials, AMR, was Mercedes Rink.
Oh, okay.
She her campaign literature said, the uniter, I'm going to unite Seattle, but nevertheless, the axis of this progressive movement on the Seattle City Council, who took over the mantle basically from Shama Sawant, is Tammy Morales. And Tammy Morales is now stepping down on January 5th. Did you see her?
I read a little bit of the post. Here's the thing on taking the mantle and taking. Okay, please. So first of all, for those on the socialist movement, in the workers' world, Shama Sawant was a bolt of lightning. If you heard other socialists speak, she was no more bombastic. She was no more loud, no more ideological than any other socialists that she was saying. She just happened to win,
right? Which says a lot, by the way.
Which says a lot, correct?
In a metropolitan area of this size, it says a lot.
It says a lot, and she continued to win, and so just like anything else, gathered her forces, but. And I say this I said this to friends who were Marxists, like, why do you talk? Well, what do you believe? And I said, well, here's the thing.
I'm sorry, they were referring. Why do you talk to her?
Why you're, in other words, why am I, essentially besmirching, socialism? Well, first of all, it's not socialism; it's communism, straightforward foremost. The moment you say Marxist, to me, that's the big indicator that you are believing in the old socialist movement back in that I'm old, I can say this now. Back in the 80s, that's what they called it. They were the Communist Party. You can't. And what they're doing is they just it's just like when they were talking about when the Christian conservatives were talking about creationism. They just scratched out the word creationism and put in something else. Well, take out socialist, put in communist. It's the same stuff. It's the same ideology, same wording. Workers of the world, they've been using the same newspaper. So let's not lie to let's not lie to ourselves about what they are. But now that we know this, under Shama Sawant and for the socialists that were there, this was an opportunity, a huge opportunity to show that there is a place for what they would call it modern socialism in the modern 21st century world that is not dictated by 18th century, by 19th century economic dictates. I mean, we don't have kings, we don't have feudalism, we don't have other lords that will that push in Russia that affect the economy. Now we do have an oligarchy for sure, but how do you do that with a democracy, a fully fledged democracy? And so that is local. And this is where for those true communists out there, communism is supposed to be the evolution of democracy. And so you should, so keeping the ideology and defining if you are not with us, you're against us, that's not democracy anymore. That's something else. So, and that's how the city council has been run. If you're with us, you're not progressive, you are not with our game, and therefore you're conservative and Republican. What did
you read into her letter? Because one thing, if I admired something about Shama Sawant, and there's elements.
There's many things to admire. Many.
I would say this about Shama Sawant. Number one, it was not only that you knew where she stood, she was committed to it.
Oh yeah,
she was committed. I remember when we told her and her team that she wasn't going to get the 37th district Democrat, and she said, "Hey, I'm not a Democrat."
She's not.
I'm not. No. I'm not going to sit here and chase these endorsements. And number one, I'm not going to get them. But I don't represent your party.
Correct.
She
represents her own party, right?
What? And I'm not saying that Tammy Morales calls herself a socialist. Mm-hmm. Maybe she does. I believe that Tammy Morales believes she's part of the Democratic Party, but
she'd like to think so.
She'd like to. But in reading her letter, for her to call out the specific treatment from other members of council, and then to the conversation about the different aspects of how the council and the security and a variety of other components was making it very, very difficult to govern. And I found that fascinating, and that's something that has been reverberating throughout the week in regards to the fact that, hey, I don't get along with you. You haven't treated me well. I'm taking my ball and going home.
Okay, Christian Harris Talley is an example. Former Seattle City Council member. She was an appointee and served 9 months, and then she says, "Hey, I'm going to be elected," and she won election pretty handily in the 37th legislative district here in South Seattle, which of course is Rainier Beach, now Beacon Hill, and then she goes to Olympia, and she's thinking, well, I'm and she's multicultural, LGBTQ, empowered, great, educated, great, all those wonderful things. Every ticky box that a Democrat could ever want, she had it. And she goes in there to Olympia thinking that she's going to shake things up. And immediately what happens is that this is word for word for almost what Christian Harris Talley was talking about, that, hey, she doesn't feel that she was, part of that. She's governing. She doesn't feel that she is making a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I humored that, you know what? She's in an environment that doesn't really care about your pronouns, to be truthfully honest. And these are people supposedly on her side because they were about to get things done. It's nice that you have these things, but I don't think that she had met, and I say this with a grain of salt, not to besmirch her, but I don't think she was prepared for the reality of what happens outside of the Seattle bubble. And so that means that, okay, because what that tells me is that she's never met a real Republican and how they believe.
You're talking about Christian Harris Talley.
Correct.
It could well be.
I don't think she's ever met a real deal, equally ideological, equally as educated, equally as in their belief systems, and logical.
Well,
and just as fervent in their beliefs, and you will not move that needle if you in Olympia if you go that way.
I thought it was interesting. In the 43rd district, and I read on his Facebook page, Sean Scott, who I've been trying to connect with, and I know he's incredibly busy.
Sure.
And we haven't made a chance to sit down. I'd like to chat with him because Bloodworth Northwest, my employer, is in the 43rd district, and I'm sure we will get a chance to connect at some point. And I did send him a letter of congratulations. But Sean was talking about he's going to Olympia to fight Republicans.
Good luck.
This is going to be and I'm sitting here like, do you really understand the nature of the role down there?
No, he doesn't. I don't think he does. Okay, with all due respect to former Speaker Frank Chop and the voters who voted for him, I don't think they know exactly. I don't think Sean Scott understands what he is up against. And he can say, well, this means more victory for us. No, it's about passing a law. I've been in government. I've been in government long enough to know that it's not about compromise. It's about common ground. And if you have none, and going in there with spit and vinegar immediately, and it's okay to be ideological, but you have to go in there with the mindset of we have to work together to pass a bill. And you in watching the state Senate, watching Senator Kaiser being at, again, I was very proud to be one of her last LAs. Was very proud to learn, at the foot of one of our modern great legislators in the state, watching her in action and being a part of that, helping her with that legislation, is to say that this is where some senior leadership will essentially pat him on the head and send him on his way. He will, what you don't want to do is just be that guy to yell, scream, and then eventually be marginalized. Several legislators have done that, and I think that's where Christian Harris Talley found herself. Now, back to Tammy Morales, how does this translate? Well, essentially, we're not a partisan on the city. It's not partisan on the city council.
We're not bicameral. We don't have to sit at the House.
Correct. But if we're still following along those ideological motions, she now finds herself in the minority. The extreme. She's now a part.
She had been since she first got there.
She won't. No, she's not. Well, not when she got there. No, she had many allies. She had many allies to which she had many allies to which she could hide in the tall grass of greatness. So compared to Ashama Sawant, what did Tamara Morales really pass for her district? No, that's up for conjecture. But she is another stamp for whatever Shama Sawant led. Who was another really good? I forgot. Lisa Herbold. Nick Licata's former aide, who became herself a legislator. She was a great leader. I got the chance. I of course had the opportunity to shake hands with her. She knew what she was talking about. She cared about her community deeply about West Seattle. And but she also knew the system and how to use it, how to work with communities and talk to them. So even if she found herself people in disagreeing with her, she also understood when she made mistakes. So a great one is, say, the head tax in 2018.
Well, right. Before we go into in the depths of that policy, I want to get a temperature read from you. I want to get what do you make of Tammy Morales stepping down? I mean, and the reasons that she gave, the reasons that you have just described. She knew that she was in the minority for the last year. She knew that potential always existed. When you are an elected official, there is going to be good times. There's going to be bad times. There's going to be times where you're part of the majority. There's going to be times where you're going to be on a minority portion of a 9-member ballot. And unfortunately, right now it's probably closer to 7-2. But nevertheless, she the frustration that she is describing and the different things that she discussed in regards to the opportunity for people to testify and the police and security stopping that and stifling it, the council relationships. It was such an interesting thing for her to.
It was very interesting. Well, yeah, and it was interesting from the point of view is that, okay, so are you willing? Okay, yes, you're outnumbered, but the question is that are you right? And so if you were to pass anything, it's like, what is it about really doing the work? Is it really doing that, or are you just, well, just to be frank, or are you not that strong enough to be with your colleagues? And that it's, I know that, and that's the only thing where I would have that. My only personal criticism to that would be, so is it because you're weak, or are you finding something, or is it because if anything, this would be an excellent path. If I were to advise Council Member Morales, this could have been an excellent platform for you to speak your mind, say what you want. Be strong, be that strong district leader to say, this is what I truly want, and I will not let the other council members run my district over. But instead, she surrendered her position, which doesn't make sense. And especially if, and like you said, if you're to quote, take the mantle of that ultra progressive Marxist leadership because the 37th district and 40th, essentially the effective philosophical home of the socialists, are here in South Seattle, down where we're late. So what will she be doing? I don't know. I have my guesses of why she would say such things, but yeah.
We are going to come back. Hold that thought. That's what I meant to say by that. That's my little below the screen signals. Hold that thought. We will come back with Marvin Rosette on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Your community radio station will provide you with more information. Rainier Avenue Radio.
We here at Rainier Avenue Radio need your help to get our guy, DJ Nasty Ness, back on his feet. Ness has been a cornerstone of the Seattle music community all of his life and has hosted K-Fox Night Beat with us at Rainier Avenue Radio for over 4 years, entertaining you every Sunday night. But he's fallen ill now, fighting for his life from a hospital bed. He's suffering from pneumonia, heart attack, kidney failure, sepsis, a UTI, and is currently actually in the process of relearning how to walk. We here at Rainier Avenue Radio love our guy Ness and sincerely ask you to help him out by donating to his GoFundMe to help him get back to good health. Donate today by going to GoFundMe support Nasty Ness Rodriguez Road to Recovery. Again, that's GoFundMe support Nasty Ness Rodriguez Road to Recovery. Thank you for helping out our guy, DJ Nasty Ness.
Mga kaibigan, ito po si Kuya Bert Kawili.
And this is Miles Salvador from Australia.
And I'm Norb Kawili, also known as Norbcam.
Kung gusto niyo po ang latest news and events from the Philippines at yung local Filipino community, Radio po.
We play Filipino music and interview guests from all around the world.
And I'll keep you updated on the latest Seahawks and sports news.
Kaya always tune in. Radio every Tuesday, 1 to 2:30 p.m. Pacific Time on Rainier Avenue Radio World.
And in YouTube and Facebook. Salamat po.
Women are not an homogenous group. We face discrimination differently depending on factors such as ethnicity, age, socioeconomic status, and more.
Rainier Avenue Radio is proud to amplify women's voices.
They are the experts of their own lives, initiating conversations within their community about challenges they face, the solutions they're working on, and the opportunities they see.
Please join us this Sunday from 2 to 5 for Women's Voices on Air. We know our challenges. We are the experts of our lives.
We are master multitaskers, prioritizing our family, friends, and our faith above our own needs.
Our needs and voices are too often overlooked.
Please join us this Sunday from 2 to 5 p.m. for Women's Voices on Air.
We tell our stories in our own way.
Change is coming to King County's permitting process. We're making it more efficient, transparent, and predictable with improved tools, plus new review timelines starting in 2025. We are committed to supporting you. Together, we can keep projects on track and moving smoothly. Learn more about King County's Partnership for Success and visit our website at kingcounty.gov/permits. That's PERMITS.
Would you like to see when your favorite Rainier Avenue Radio show comes on? Check out our show schedule, updated weekly at rainieravenue.world.
Welcome back to Juan on Rainier. On your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio App. If you were listening to the different commercials, you heard one for Nasty Ness Rodriguez, who back in the day when I was a senior in Illinois High School, and man, that was a long time ago on C89 radio. C89, remember Nasty Ness on C89?
I do.
And that provided the soundtrack for a number of us. For a number of us who are in our late or 50s, that he provided the soundtrack for a number of summers there.
Yeah, it was Nasty Ness who helped carry the evening for many high school students.
You certainly did.
And for those who didn't have the opportunities of different radio media at the time, Nasty Ness represented us before back in for those high school and playing that new music for us. So
you know what's interesting though, man? Yeah. If you had your radio and you turned it ever so slightly, if you got that antenna ever so slightly turned away, you would lose C89.
Oh.
And then you had to fiddle to get it back. You had to play with a little aerial. When I went to Edmonds Community College, oddly enough, it was so much easier to get up in Linwood than it was down in South Seattle.
I think it's because we have better. I think they have better radio equipment nowadays. I mean, not to say that they didn't. Like, you can still piggyback off KUW from the towers over in the Central District. But what? I just want
to say one more thing before we go on in our conversation. But just if you have an opportunity, those that are listening to us, those that are watching this, if you have an opportunity to contribute, Nasty Ness Rodriguez is in poor shape right now. If you can go to whatever social media page, I'm sure, or type in Nasty Ness Rodriguez into Google, something will come up. If you can make a small contribution, and he has impacted so many of us, just whatever you can spare to help Nasty Ness Rodriguez gain his health, it would go a long way. So please consider doing that for Nasty Ness Rodriguez, a local legend here in the community. Like I said, the backdrop of all of us in our early to mid 50s, late 50s, early 60s. He can really use a little bit of help right now. And once again, we have a community, you can see right there. Some substantial money has been raised, and if you know anything about American healthcare, he certainly is going to need more. moving into our conversation, let's go back to Tammy for just a second. Councilmember Morales, who's stepping down on January the 5th. I'm going to do everything I can to get her in your chair.
Yeah.
I'm going to do everything I can to get her in her chair.
Yeah,
and conversation.
And I think she should definitely be part of this conversation.
Let me ask you this, Marvin. What's going to happen next in District 2? Are they going to be able to find a kind of a moderate Marvin Rosette type of voice, or are we going to find someone, or will the council do something completely interesting? Will they go ahead and take Tanya Wu, who lives in the district, and put her back on the city council?
That's a possibility. I guess let me qualify myself before I go in.
Please.
So, I grew up in Rainier Beach.
Viking.
Yeah, I grew. Yeah, I didn't go to Rainier Beach, but I ended up going to Renton High School. I went to O'Day High School for about a year. That's where Mom and I get to pound fists on that one. But I ended up in Renton afterwards. So I get to look outside of the bubble when it comes to Seattle politics now. Before I used to be well into it, but again, now I have this. I can now look into the fishbowl and look at it objectively without having my own sense of apprehension towards how I feel about it. I can look at it objectively now. So when you're looking at District 2 and then looking at the council, the first thing you have to ask the council is, do I want, let's talk about, like you were saying, the replacement. Does Tanya want to do this again? She went in there I believe originally with the premises, I'm going to defend my community. I'm going to defend the portion of my neighborhood that means a lot to me, and that carried her through the day. But then again, there's a reason why she got she missed the mark by 500 votes in the first election, and that said two things. One, is it because Tanya was that great? Or is it because Tammy Morales is that cruddy of a council member that people will not want to vote for her? A little bit of both. I think that in the Tanya Wu campaign, I think she was just given in the first run against Tammy Morales. I think she was just given poor campaign advice. She could have performed a lot, but she was new, so she could have performed a lot better. Now for Tammy, she can see her numbers dwindling just as Shama Sawant did, especially in the recall. I mean, for the recall for Sawant, it was even closer, 300 votes. So 300, 500, you're seeing a trend that one miscue from Tammy Morales would have ended her run if she decided to run again.
I was at the fundraiser, the kickoff. Third term for Rod Dembowski.
Okay.
I was there on Wednesday night. He had his kickoff down in Pioneer Square. Mm-hmm. And there were a number of folks there, and it was interesting. Obviously, Rod has made the decision to run for his seat.
Okay.
He toyed with the idea, I want to say 3 years ago, was it, to run for prosecuting attorney here in King County, but he was persuaded. He was persuaded by a number in the community to jump off of that because Lisa Mannion ended up who was second in command to the longtime King County prosecuting attorney. She went ahead and ran for the position, had community support, and was able to defeat Jim Farrell for that position. Mm-hmm. And she currently occupies that position now. And Rod's event the other night, he's been searching. Many thought he was going to be a potential candidate for King County executive. Many thought he would have been a potential appointment somewhere in the Ferguson administration. He's extremely close friends with Bob Ferguson, the governor-elect. Again, Governor-elect Ferguson made a wonderful presentation about Rod Dembowski at the event the other night. But you can definitely feel, Marvin, the air of change in politics in Seattle. And and now being on the opposite end of the spectrum. I remember in 1992 when we were ushering in our new senator and Patty Murray, and we were ushering in all of these young dynamic candidates, Jesse Weinberry in the 37th over John O'Brien's young 37-year-old dynamic attorney, and obviously Adam Smith had been in the legislature for a couple of years. I think it was his second term down there. But it seems like these positions, and you had all those young folks. Now we're sort of the older folks, and we see all these young kids. Grace Toshiko Hasagawa, the daughter of Senator Bob Hasagawa, she is many were saying at the event that she's the presumptive person that will replace Girmay Zahale in the 5th district as the 5th district King County Councilmember Zahale. He is the leading candidate and has raised in 2 weeks' time almost $270,000 for the King County Executive's race. So we have him running for the King County Executive. We have Grace Toshiko Hasagawa running for, presumably she's on the Port Commission now. You had Sammy Cho, and he was circling the room. Sammy Cho was circling the room. And I like Sam Cho. He's an interesting character, the very, very reverent kind of guy. He was circling the room, making sure that he was seen. Don't know if he's up for anything, but certainly for his position, I'm sure the ambition exists. Then, of course, I mean, you see this going throughout the. I mean, you have your favorite Renton City Council member, Ed Prince, and you have David Hackney. I mean, we have this percolation of politics going on right now, where we're seeing this almost generational switch. And wanted to see how is that accurate, or am I reading too much into that?
No, it's a switch, but I'll get it right. I want to be as nice about this as possible. I want to be as nice about this as possible because I know too much. I know too much because I've had leadership positions in the local Democratic Party all the way up to the state. Sure. You can't help but notice and meet all of these wonderful people that you've mentioned, and everyone you've mentioned, I've met at least once, and met at least once or know very well. Known Toshiko before she got into politics, but again, I knew most of these people have already gotten into politics. Hasagawa's office was wondering how come I'm not running, and I kind of laughed. They didn't know I had my own run-in with running against Councilmember Prince over in Renton, and again, this, by the way, these races that you get into, they're not necessarily for vanity. So, for example, the reason why I ran against Ed Prince, as an example, he. In small cities, it's very easy to hide things like giving away a $10 million project, surrendering Renton's position back and giving it to Sound Transit, where we lost a parking garage, a parking structure. There's now big empty space on Grady Way near Wajimaya and near Renton City Hall because Ed said that we can go ahead and sign off on this. What's the value for making such a large transaction like that? What does he get out of not having that parking space there? Well, what it does is that, first of all, to finish out this part of the story. So you had a mayor who was looking forward. We had a city relying on that project, and all of a sudden, $10 million disappears. Right. And then when you have to go back to Sound Transit, and you say, "Hey, what happened to that?" Oh, well, we had to give the money away because we need it elsewhere. Well, who signed off on it? So Ed Prince is sitting on that sound on. Oh, well, he said it was he signed off on it and it's okay. And then, but he put in an amendment though that said you can have the money back if we get any. And anyone in politics, and anyone in any policymaker knows that once you get that money away, it is gone and you will never see it again. So of course, it was easy to bury this thing because Sound Transit, as an example, is a government that is not elected. It's appointed from your own city council members. Right. And somehow you got to hold those things accountable. That's why you do those things. So again, I get to see this from both. So when you talk about this new generational shift, part of the generational shift is what's the tonal shift in what they want to accomplish. So if you ask me what let's say a Kimmy Khan Vaughn accomplished, what did an Ed Prince accomplish in Renton City Council? I, as a voter there, will have to think very hard of what they've done. Maybe for their communities, like Ed had served, example, as the president of the Dunson Bruins Youth Football Association. But as far as delivering something to the city of Renton, nothing, because he also works as the executive director of the Washington State Commission on African American Affairs. So that means he is beholden to do whatever he serves at the pleasure of the governor. So does that mean he can hold a position different than the governors on serving Renton? So that is a conflict. Same thing goes. Why would you give a $10 million project that benefits our city unless it was something to maybe benefit or ingratiate yourself? I don't know. That's the part in the room I don't know. So there's horse trading going on, and you can see it. It's obvious. And so back to these politicians. What do you do? Is in the Democratic dominated county and state that we are, it's very easy to overlook the accountability towards our own party because they'll just we all think alike, but they're not delivering the results we expect.
Is it a fair characterization?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a fair characterization? I mean, when we were growing up, the elected officials, I mean, George Benson, and he, had his little drugstore, and you had the, I remember so many the Seattle City Council at the time, and they had prior businesses and jobs, and they were attorneys. It seems to me now, and maybe I'm wrong, but it seems that people come up through like this Democratic Party system, and they work for an elected official, they work for a candidate. There's not a wide range of experience, maybe some small nonprofit work, some positions. Frank Chop basically built Fremont Public Association before he became a state legislator.
Yeah, and Mayor McGinn, he worked he was solid ground, I believe, executive director for a while before he decided he's going to run for mayor. So that qualifies you in other words, it shows people what you believe in for sure. But now it's not. But now what's it really come down to is the game of, it's not so much what qualifies you as how many votes can I get. And so regardless of how good you may be, how intelligent you can be, it's how many people are going to vote for you or vote against you. So Shama Sawant, let's take another great example. They kept voting her, 3 or 4 terms. They kept voting her in until the recall. The recall was she almost got axed from her position by 300 votes. But for the grace of a lot of tactical movements by her organization in order to try to get as many votes as she can. And now that being said, now it's also about that kind of organization you're gonna have in order to organize those votes and what they're gonna say. And so
I believe that I'm going to get I don't know who does it, so don't tie this to a particular group or individuals. So I think there's ballot harvesting going on.
Well, there is. I believe there is. We say what you want. It's a form. They're all forms of it, but also you're seeing in Seattle, just like you're seeing in anywhere, that there's in order to be elected right now, they're all drawing from the same pool of people. Same pool of people that will try to get you elected. So, for example, in Seattle City Council, you wanted to make nice with certain groups to get you elected. Before all you needed was certain endorsements, good old boy system, if you will, just with the party, and that was enough to say get that stamp of approval. Now, but that stamp of approval needs fuel. So now you needed the unions to go in. That's how the system works. But if you are outside of that system or unaware of that system, you will not get elected. And so for now,
it's the same. I was thinking about that. I was thinking about that last night, Marvin, and I think and you brought up my children. I think about my children. If they, they're in their civics class, and they go, "Geez, I would like to be an elected official. I would really like to be an elected official, and I would like to make some changes for the people in my community and go out and run." It seems like you're buttressed up against a bunch of almost professional people who want to be politicians, and all of the things that you describe, and it gives off the appearance almost like a vanity play rather than someone who really wants to go in and make a true change for people in the community.
Well, the quick answer is yes, it is a vanity play. Like, for example, why would you? Now there are times where you have elected officials who truly screw up, but they're hidden because they have a machine behind them. So, I can name numerous politicians where that occurred, where people finally figured it out. And then the politician said, you know what, I got to go. I have 3 right off the top of my head. It goes all the way from Congress, King County Council, state legislature has more. These examples exist. And so, but not mean to besmirch, the people who have had these offices. My point being is that some people are there that it's hard to hold our own party accountable to we have a responsibility now, not just to be a progressive rubber stamp, if you will. We owe it to, if you will, future generations of getting something done and something that lasts in a project. So will you vote a certain way? Sure, that's easy. So if you go to the state legislature, you meet with your party caucus, there's certain bills that they'll talk about that you want to vote for. But if there's a pet project that you want, that you have to get through, you have to have those relationships. And so that then becomes where you will be accepted or marginalized. What will you get done? And so, and then if there's something that your district really needs, do you have, did you get there because you were a vanity player, or were you there because you really want to get things done and made the requisite amount of relationships in order to get what you wanted for your district? So for Tammy Morales, and I'll just call it out right here Rizal Park got vandalized. Filipinos were there. It's right smack dab in her district. I see no movement from her office. Same thing happened when there was homeless, the homeless crisis that was looming over in the international district, which spawned a Tanya Wu. What did Tammy Morales do? She said essentially to the people of Chinatown that you're on your own, that this is what I believe, and all of these homeless issues, well, where else will they go? Then that means they'll just live here. Unacceptable, says the people of the Chinatown International District. Do something, and they did nothing. And these are facts. You can't. This is not Marvin being angry. This is not.
Sure, it is.
The band. Well, yeah, but it is. It is, but it is frustration. It's like, again, here's an opportunity when you're sitting in office to do something very practical, that has something to do that's very practical, where you do have the ability to make this change for your neighborhood, and you do nothing.
Right.
And so that means, is it because you don't care, you don't think if it's important, or is there a higher ideology that's driving to telling you that it doesn't matter?
Should the Seattle City Council reappoint Tanya Wu?
Well, first of all, does she want it? Let's start.
I'm sure she does.
Okay,
she wouldn't turn it down.
She wouldn't turn it down.
She wouldn't turn it down if they put her up there again.
But the question is that would she have the appetite to? But now the thing is, if you appoint her, will she defend her seat? Does she have that ability? And before, since they appointed her, yes.
What's the scrutiny of the city council if they do appoint her? It's probably going to be a 7-1 vote.
Here's my opinion is that if Tanya wants it and she seeks it, she would be given more due consideration. But again, it's going to come back to, I believe, we'll put you up again, but will you have the backing of your people to win the election again? Because she's going to have to. And will she run the same campaign as she did citywide? There were, gosh bless Tanya Wu. She was running a different kind of campaign. The people will write books about what happened and what's not, and I can't say myself on why it would, but it was definitely different. Not a race that Sarah Nelson would have run. That's what I can say. I don't have the postmortem on that myself, but I would have run it if I were there, I would have run it far differently with different tactics in mind. For a citywide race. Essentially, it's like a little mini mayor's race, and I didn't see that coming out of the Tanya Wu campaign. But I know that if she were to be appointed, I think that she would try to find herself it would be a better campaign, because it's a campaign I think she would be more used to running, and where she'd be more successful. But the question is, does she want it, and how? And if she doesn't want it, who would be appointed that is just as good or not better than Tanya Wu? There are a couple names that are being floated, but that's none that I can disclose so far or know it. But definitely the applicant pool is out there. And how deep that bench is, I'm not sure. But I know one thing for sure: if you're coming from that ideological bent from the left, just to be ideological, you probably won't be that application will probably not be successful. If they have if you have not shown some sort of working in this neighborhood, you probably won't be selected either. Just can't say, oh well, I came from this background, you're gonna vote for it, this is how it's gonna be. No. There's no arm twisting from this council that you'll see.
What's next for Marvin Rosette?
Marvin Rosette is going to...
I'm sorry. Yeah. What's next for Marvin Rosette?
Marvin Rosette. What's next for Marvin Rosette? Marvin Rosette is going to take a break. I enjoyed taking a break from this last election cycle for not running. I enjoyed it, but could I always run for office? Sure, absolutely. There's some things going on in Renton that I love to get involved in. I'm going to see we're still panning out what's going to go happen in the state legislature. So that pans out where I'm going to apply. I'm excited to see what's there. I'm excited for this with the movement of Jay Inslee. Again, 12 years, an almost unprecedented stage. 12 years. A 2-year term is great because now we're the log jam is cleared from the top. People have now moved, and so it's good for the Democratic Party ecosystem for a new generation to move up and step up and show what they can do. I think that was one of the harder part back when you and I were there was that there was that logjam, people who were elected for a long time and they stayed elected. Now it's more dynamic, and that's good. People are being elected, moving on. People are being elected and getting better jobs and leaving their positions, which is great.
Oh, you see that.
So that's what I think. That's what I think.
I hope that happens to you. I hope very, very shortly, the next time we see each other, you will be in a position that really serves the community, and most importantly, puts a little bit of cabbage in your pocket so you're able to take care of yourself.
And you too, sir.
So I'm doing pretty well for myself. But nevertheless, it's always a pleasure to see you here. It's always a pleasure to have you on our community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. And no matter what life brings to you, you're always going to be person 001, episode 001 on Juan on Rainier.
Well, thank you so much. And I think hopefully in the next time we do this, whether it be next week or next year, that there's growth to see how things have evolved, especially here. So
no doubt about that. Thank you so much, Marvin, for your time. Daniel Bellis, obviously, thank you for taking time. And we hope you enjoy us and always take care of the things that go on behind the scenes. Appreciate you so much on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world.